Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Gordon, and welcome to Terry's Courage Talk. Thank you so much for being my guest today.
I'm happy to be here. I'm seriously really happy. Thanks for having
I,
me.
you're so welcome. I loved
Hey,
our conversation we have had before on your own podcast, and
yeah.
I was so I was so amazed by you personally and your story and what you were standing for and how you're helping women that I could not wait to interview you.
Well,
So,
thank
first of
you.
all, will you please just tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Michelle Gordon, but most people call me Dr. G. And it's a lot. so,
I know. Do we
so
have a couple hours? Yeah.
yeah, right. You appeared on my Menopause Movement podcast, and what happened is that for me, a few years ago, menopause hit, and it felt like I gained 50 pounds almost overnight, and I was crying at commercials and snapping at everyone and forgetting things that were important. I'm a surgeon. I was a surgeon by trade, and I couldn't remember the names of things that I would remember all the time. I thought, well, am I going crazy? What's going on? And I realized it was menopause. And I was like, well, this is weird. And so what happened was I went to my friends, really, who are, I have access to a lot of doctors. I'm a surgeon, a lot of doctors. And basically they said, well, you can take a pill, powder, potion, or patch, or you
I'm
can
so
suffer
relating to this.
you
Sorry.
can suffer
Okay.
through it.
Yeah.
Um, or you can just, you can just accept this as your new normal. And for me, in the high stakes profession of surgery, when somebody's life is in your hands, when you're holding a knife, I didn't feel comfortable with who I was becoming.
Mm.
And I, 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 I was like, this isn't right. So I started looking for a course, actually, because I'm always into education. I'm always, I've always wanted to learn more. So I went online looking for a course and couldn't find one. And I did, I got into Dr. Google, and I can interpret that stuff. I'm a trained scientist, and I was,
Hmm.
a doctor and whatever. And it was really weird for me. And I was
Mm.
like, wow, what is this mystery that's happening? And why is nobody talking about it? And so I went down this big long-term rabbit hole of figuring out what to eat
Mm.
and how to move, and most importantly, how to think to make menopause the best time of my life. And so my own transformation was about a 50-pound weight loss. And it was improved relationships primarily with myself. I started loving myself again, and a spiritual path that I didn't even know I was on,
Mm.
and improved relationships with everyone I love, and a career change.
Oh, is that all? Is that
That's
it?
all. Well, that's, yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I mean, I love when you said menopause. I decided to make menopause the best time of my life.
Yeah.
What? I mean, come on, everyone listening out there, what? You don't really
Well,
hear that. So you're such a great example, and it's such a courageous act that you wanted to find a positive outcome to this.
yeah. So one of the things that a lot of women think is that you just have to suffer through menopause, right? That it's going to be
Hmm.
miserable. And I like to really take a look at menopause and reframe it and say, this is the privilege of a long life. And how
Mm.
many of us have friends? One of my best friend from high school, she, when in 2004, she stood up to let her dog out and she died. She never
Oh,
got to experience menopause. She died because she had a blood clot after an accident. And
right.
so she never had the privilege of a long life.
Mm.
And so, when we can start there and say, I may be miserable, my body may not be doing the things it used to, but I'm still here. And how can I make this time that I have the best time? Because this is all we really have is right now.
It's so true. And it's just a reframing. And you are describing the reframing of this so beautifully. What if we saw it as what a gift this is? Like you
Yeah.
just said, we have a long life that we're experiencing this, that we're going through this. And but I also want to know just a little bit more about the courageous steps that you took to change your career. So
Uh-huh.
first of all, I already know your story of how, which I'd love you to tell the audience a little bit more about, is even how you became a surgeon and then going from a surgeon. to changing a career to help women with this
Yeah.
have better lives?
Well, so, all right. Where do
I
I start?
This is a two-part series, I think. This
Yeah,
is our
no.
first part. Yes.
So I'm trying to think about where to start. So, I mean, I had a lifetime of adversity. I was brutally sexually abused as a child to the point that I don't remember part of my childhood. And for me to kind of get over that and realize that that happened and there was nothing I could do about it, but the my life, I couldn't let it stay there. And this was something I discovered when I was late teens or early 20s, that I could either be bitter and angry about the things that were done to me when I had no control, or I could do my best to forgive and move on and realize that my reaction to that, the way I chose to respond to that, was mine. And the longer I kept thinking about those incidents that happened over and over, the longer that child who was abused was controlling my life. And so I
Wow,
just
powerful.
freed everyone. I freed myself from that whole situation and kept moving on. I mean, I was always the type of child who never let anybody, I mean, they tried to break my spirit and I just wouldn't break. I just kept getting back up. And my mind, for whatever reason, what my mind chose to do was just dissolve a whole year of my life because it was
Ah,
just so horrendous. And I've tried to get those memories back, and I finally just made peace with it. It's like, okay, it's just not there. And and I've read that in severe trauma, sometimes that's what the mind does. It will
mhm.
actually blank, you just never get it back. It'll just delete it, which is
Yes.
fine. I mean, sometimes I am a little worried that, like, why can't I recall these things? Because I've come to this place where I'm so much more stable and feel really good. And, but at the end of the day, it's like, maybe when I go back to spirit, I'll get it, and maybe it just doesn't matter.
So
So
beautifully. That's just so beautiful. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I, I mean, I want you to finish what you were saying, but I do
yeah,
also want to ask you the first question. So let me know when you're
sure.
done with this
Yeah.
part of the
So
story, your amazing story.
yeah, so I ended up I oh boy. I'm to be brief, I ended up doing I struggled with my sexuality. I didn't know who I was. I didn't feel comfortable because I had been raised in conservative Christianity. I didn't feel comfortable being who I was. I'm more attracted to women than men, although I'm probably very pansexual. And and I wasn't open to that. And so while I wanted to be with women, I ended up marrying a man, and that marriage was never right. And we had a
Mm,
son, and our son developed at 21 months a form of leukemia that almost took his life.
mm,
And so when my son was in treatment and he got better, and my husband decided to leave the marriage, which was probably better for everyone, but it was hard. I mean, I'm not going to, I could talk about it now, several years away from it, but at the time it
mhm,
was really awful. And we had a really long and drawn out custody battle. But my son, what happened was I was like, I can't work because he's getting sick all the time. And so, like, I got to go back to school. And so I applied to a bunch of medical schools all over the country. And there was a school that was 7 miles from my house. And I got an interview there on April 15th. Actually, it's today. Today's
oh,
the day
look
I
at
had my
that.
interview. Yeah.
Isn't that
And
interesting?
so my interview was on April 15th, and April 7th my brother died. And so
I mean, I tell you what, your story is something else. Okay. Yeah.
I go, my brother dies. I go to his funeral.
Ah,
My colleagues say you should move your interview. And I just knew in my heart, if I moved the interview, they'd never let me in.
mm,
So I come home, I go to the interview. It was a little bit emotional. It was hard. I was close to my brother.
mm.
And we go to the interview and they put me on the wait list. And I ended up just bugging them until, I said, well, if you get a seat, I'll come in. If you get a seat, I'll come in. I just called them. And back in the day when had the answering machine with the tape on it, and I called one day and they said, call us up. We have a seat for you. I was like, whoa.
What?
And Yeah, and I was really living hand to mouth. I had this job, but I wasn't doing very well at this job,
You're taking care of
and
your son.
yeah, my son was
Yeah,
in
as a single
chemo.
mom. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I got, I called them back, and they said, yeah, you need to drop out. You need to come now and give us $1,250. And I was like, shit, I don't have this money. I don't have this money. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, listen, the medical school just gave me, they gave me a seat, but I need money. And he wired, I mean, this is the first time and only time in my whole life I've ever used Western Union. He wired the money to me, using Western Union. Western Union did it to me. I got the money, I went, and then kind of the rest is history. I was able to get into school and
It's incredible. And finish school.
yeah.
Not only
Yeah.
the story of what led you to even apply and then being persistent and then getting in and then finishing school is not for the lighthearted.
And residency. And then then a 5-year surgical residency after that, all the while with, my son who was better, but still had issues. I mean, and, so we've been through a lot with him, and he's actually going to be 28 years old this year, this month.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah.
Really. I mean,
So,
what a success story on that. Like, celebration on that. So I want to ask you a question in a new moment in time, because I've already asked you this question last time we spoke. All of this to me is such an incredible story to share, to help other people see the strength that they have. And I see complete strength in what you did. But do you see yourself as courageous?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And the reason I say that is that courage comes, I think courage, excuse me, courage comes in many different packages, and we may not recognize it when we're in the thick of something, when we're acting courageous. I'm the type of person who would probably jump in when somebody is drowning and try and save them. And I probably wouldn't even think twice about it. I'm a strong swimmer. I know how to bring somebody and put them, under my arm and stuff. I don't think about myself in that way. And that's, you think about the courage that was required for people to go into the Twin Towers. Yeah. They didn't think about themselves. They didn't think the buildings were going to collapse on them. They were just getting people out of a burning building. And so during the time, all those times, with my son, for example, there was an incident where the radiation oncologist wanted to radiate his whole brain, and he was 21 months old. Oh, and knowing what I know about the development of the brain, and the brain doesn't fully develop until the child is 3 years old. And so I said, listen, I was his mother. I have to assume he's going to make it. And my very next my next responsibility is to his quality of life. And you can't do that to him. Wow. And so he's, he's still got some cognitive disabilities, but it's not as much as it would have been. And so
that was
in
a courageous act. Yeah, that was a courageous act.
Well, I stood up to the authority, which can be intimidating. I've never been one to love conflict, but I'll step into it if I have to. Yeah. And so you ask whether I think I was courageous. I think I was tenacious. And I knew that I had to get through medical school. I didn't care what my grades were. I didn't care about any of that. I just knew that once I got through it and got through my residency, that I was going to be the best damn doctor I could possibly be. And I was. And you have been. Yes. Yeah. So so do you see yourself, so tenacious, what does tenacious mean to you? So I like tenacious. The way I look at it is that it's stick-to-itiveness. So if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to stick at it until I get what I need out of it, or I see that the continuing is just completely futile. Yes. So have you been tenacious? Is this an innate part of who you are? Was it a learned thing? Wow. I would say that likely it is something, when I believe I can do something, I just do it, whatever it takes. And whether I'm defying any odds. I mean, I never look at the odds. I'm just like, okay, I got to do this. How am I going to get it done?
Mm.
So that's always been, I never look at statistics or odds or what, when it comes to like wanting to get something off the ground for me, I just do whatever it is I got to do. And
That's
and
great.
then
That's amazing. Amazing.
well, it doesn't feel amazing to me because
Right.
it's just like how I am. But oftentimes, when I look back to the dark times when I was in my divorce and I was in medical school, and it was just, what's the next thing? What's
Mm.
that next thing that I've got to do? And then, taking a little bit of action toward that.
Well, that's the answer I was searching for when I did the survey with 100 women about the subject of courage. I
Mhm.
wanted to understand as a life coach what made the difference of people who went through difficulties or hard times that gave up versus the ones that persevered and even sometimes came out better from it. I really wanted to understand that. And I still to this day don't know that I have that absolute answer. I
Mm.
do believe that some built the muscle to be stronger and be more courageous. And maybe they had inspiration from other people in their life. And then others, I do believe, had an innate sense of survival. And because you overcame some, abuse. I mean, you just look at the list of things that you took on head on, and you didn't let it stop you. You kept going. I mean, those are a lot of obstacles to overcome. So,
Yeah, I
what
mean,
would you tell people out there like that are going like, I don't know if I'm like her. I don't know if I can do that. What would you say to
I,
them? Like,
well, I'm no different than anyone else. I struggled. There was a time in my life when I didn't eat every
mm,
day. When I lived in Los Angeles and I was working at this people's home, they had a daughter who was disabled, and I would go there and help teach her how to eat, and I was really good at turning things into, so just even the act of eating, I turned into an algorithm. And
of
and
course.
we just do step by step by step, things with her. But I would have dinner with them, and some days that was the only meal I would have. And so
Mm,
I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to be more affluent. And
mm.
I like being affluent more. but, but
Well, you worked hard for that.
yeah, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I mean, I, the reason I bring this up is that I'm not any different than anyone else. I just,
Mm,
my lot in life was not any different. It's just that I just never gave up.
mm,
But there, this is a hard topic because, sometimes people have to give up in order to get to the next step. I mean, there are things that you've got to, projects that you might have tried to do, and you couldn't stay up with technology, and then it's just a zero sum game, and you just have to
mm-hmm,
abandon it.
mm-hmm,
And that can happen. But for me, I mean, the whole dream of becoming a medical, a doctor, a medical student, all that stuff. I mean, that that programming entered my mind at age 5, and I couldn't let it go. And so that's just how it was. And I
mm-hmm,
had to be a doctor. There
mm-hmm.
that
So you
yeah.
believed somewhere. I feel like you believed somewhere inside of yourself that you could do it. And a lot of people out there, they succumb to not believing in themselves or what other people or society is telling them, or they
Yeah.
made a mistake, and so because of that mistake or because of that, all of a sudden they don't believe that they can follow their dreams and be strong or courageous or tenacious to keep going. And
Well,
I'm similar to you. I had something inside me that never stopped.
yeah, I think
Persisted.
when you talk about mistakes, so we have to understand that life is a series of mistakes and each one of those mistakes is going to be a lesson.
Hmm.
And for some reason, something happens to us as we grow up, thinking that we have to be able to do everything perfectly from the get-go. And if if that were the case, then we would have a world full of perfect people who never made mistakes. And so
Ah,
there's something about the way the ego kind of, as we grow up, our ego becomes more and more a bigger part of us. And so we start listening to that voice in our heads that says, you suck, you suck, you suck, you suck, you suck. And not everybody has a voice that tells them they suck. Some people have, just they see pictures or whatever. But I always had a voice.
Mm.
And when I didn't like something, like I hated ballet, and I did it for years and years and years because my mom put me in it, and it was something that I just stuck with, and I
Yes.
wanted to get on point, and as soon as I got on point, I quit.
Mm.
And I just didn't love it. It wasn't for me. I mean, I was always more sporty. I should have been in track and field and swimming and things like that, and that,
Mhm.
my parents didn't pay attention to what I wanted.
Yes.
So that was a great lesson for me because I was able to pay a little bit more attention to what my son wanted. But
Mhm.
the voice in my head would always just, say, you're fat, you suck, you fat, you suck. And I think that there is a skill that comes with being able to hear that voice and just go and do it anyway. And
Yeah.
then as we start to grow up and recognize, especially in adulthood, when you realize that no one's talking about you, nobody's judging you, and if they are judging you, who gives a crap? And and then realizing that at the end of the day, there might be a whole bunch of smart people out there, but nobody's smarter than you, really. I mean, and that may sound super arrogant, but when it comes to getting things done, you have to have self-efficacy. And
Mhm.
so understanding that I know I can do anything when I put my mind to it, and I work within the confine, work within whatever kind of constraints I have, and my success is inevitable. And so
I
when
love.
and I've just seen that over and over and over in my life, with medical school, with my surgical practice, with my online business, with all of it. It's just, yeah.
It's beautiful. I mean, you had a voice, an advocacy for yourself, a voice that stood up for yourself. And I
Yeah.
always talk about choosing your inner strength, whatever you want to call it. Your inner strength, courage, um, being brave, um, the force within you that knows more than what your brain is telling you at times,
Right.
and to choose that over fear or doubt that makes you start thinking or going down a road that tells you that you can't or you shouldn't, or how do you don't deserve that. All kinds of things start to happen because
Yeah.
of things that have happened in your life or people that have influenced you in your life. And so for people out there, that I've always just been trying to tell them what the path is, that there is a path, that you can choose to go past those fears and go past the doubt and the belief that you can't, and the limiting thoughts that happen, and be strong, be courageous, be tenacious, and keep going. So
Yeah.
what I want you to give the best advice you can based on what you know and what you're doing right now, and how you can help women and anyone listening, women and men. But I know with women that you can really help them with the menopause, stage,
Yeah.
and what you're doing is amazing. So twofold in kind of wrapping this up.
Yeah. So the first thing is that resilience, I think, comes when we start to reframe our failures. So when we're able to look at something that we initially may see as a failure and see all of the opportunities that have come from it, then we can really start to bounce back. and
Mm,
and that's I think a huge part of resilience and stick to itiveness, is that nobody's perfect. We're all
mm,
going to make
mm,
mistakes. But when we take those mistakes and we look at them and say, okay, well, what can I learn from this? And where's the opportunity here? And when that happens, what kind of opportunity, what kind of changes do I need to make in me? And who do I have to be in order to make the goal happen? So there's that. And then, with regard to the menopause movement, what we've done is, we've surveyed tens of thousands of women in menopause. And overwhelmingly, the number one thing that women want is to lose weight, get their bodies
mm.
back. And while we always think about this future thing that's going to bring us happiness. Happiness is not because of some event. Happiness is a decision. But
I love
if
that.
if you want your body back, we have a really great challenge that we've just launched, and you can go to menopausemovement.com/challenge and check it out. It's a 28-day challenge. It's less than the price of a latte every day. It's really cheap. No, it's really cheap. I mean, it's
It is.
just a tad more than $1 a day. And
Yes.
you get 28 days of support plus accountability. And we talk about exactly the things that you have to do in order to have a successful weight loss journey. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, go check that out.
Wonderful. Okay, so how can they get a hold of you? And we'll make sure that we post that on the interview here, and so you can go to it. But please tell everyone how to get a hold of you.
Yeah,
And
so you
next
can.
time, yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
we're going to do this live so they can ask you
Yeah.
questions.
All right. Great. Yeah. So you can find me on menopausemovement.com. You can find my podcast, the Menopause Movement Podcast, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get a podcast. You can go to menopausemovement.com/blog. And the most recent, all the podcasts are there. There's about 100 of them now. And then if you want to get a hold of me, just send an email to support@menopausemovement.com, and it'll be me or somebody from my team. We'll get back to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your wisdom and your vulnerability, your honesty of sharing your story so that you can help other people see that they have hope and that there is a path for them, even through whatever phase they are in life, but particularly in menopause, and reframing that this could be the best time of their life. But for anyone out there that's listening, just know that you are stronger than you think you are, and there is a path for being happy, and you just need to decide, and we can help you do that. So
Yeah.
reach out and make sure that you are living your best life. So thank you for being my guest today, because it really is an honor to hear your story and to have you share your wisdom with us. And I
Thanks
can't
for
wait to
having
do
me.
our live event where they
Yeah.
can ask you questions live. So everyone, look for that. It'll be coming up soon.
Woo! Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
All right.